The time is 4 o'clock. Good afternoon and welcome to the news from around the world on T Solid Radio. I am Joy Akin Olamigoke. First, the major headlines. NPA appeals to Marine Police others to end attacks on Baji's illegal checkpoint. And on the foreign scene, Taliban warn of consequences if United States extends evacuation. Ethiopians protest migrants abuse in Saudi Arabia. And on the world sport, Joshua Kimmich extends Bayern contract till 2025. And moving on to the news in details. The acting managing director of the Nigerian Port Authority, NPA, Mohammed Bello Koko, has sought the support and cooperation of stakeholders to end the incessant cases of attacks on vessels, barge operators, and other port facilities around the waterfront and channels. He disclosed this during a meeting with the Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of Maritime, Mr. John Obunaya, and other stakeholders in the sector. Speaking at the meeting, Bello Koko said that there was an urgent need for the maritime police and other security agencies to assist the authority in addressing the rising cases of attacks on vessels, barge operators, and other port facilities, especially around the waterfront and the channel areas. He also sought the support of the AIG in helping to address the persistent complaints by stakeholders over extortion, illegal mounting of roadblocks by the security agencies, association, and unions, all of who operate along the seaport corridors, comprising also Tinker and Coconuts, Maitu, really around the Sifax terminal on Ijora Olokba, as well as Police Area B, Wharf, and Creek Roads, among others. He added that efforts have been intensified to dismantle all illegal checkpoints with a call on truck drivers to resist extortion. The National Industrial Court, Abuja, on Monday ordered striking members of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors (NARD) and the federal government to suspend all forms of hostilities and maintain status quo. Justice John Tagema, the vacation judge in his ruling, gave the order pending the hearing and determination of motion on notice. Tagema said that he granted the application after careful consideration of the processes filed by the applicant. He further ordered that hearing notice be issued along with other processes, which included the originating summons be served on the respondent and proof of service to be kept in the case file before the next adjourned date. Tagema, in addition, adjourned the matter until September 15th for hearing of the motion on notice hand or any other pending application on its merits. The applicant's Ministry of Health and the federal government through the Ministry of Labor had approached the court through an ex parte motion praying for some order of the court. Major roads and streets in Enugu State were deserted in the early hours of today as residents continue to comply with the sit-at-home order to press for the release of the detained leader of the indigenous people Biafra, IPOB Nnamdi Kanu. Although the separatist group with 2 weeks ago called for the action, had last week backtracked and asked residents to go about their normal duties every Monday, but businesses and offices remained under lock and key today, August 23rd, in the state. As of 9 a.m., no bank, markets, filling station, parks, and government offices, among other businesses in the state, had opened, while residents who had early engagement resorted to trek into their destination as commercial vehicles were off the roads. However, the school authority at the Air Force Primary School Enugu called parents to pick their words as the examination could not commence by 9 a.m. Although IPOB, in a statement by its media and publicity secretary Ima Powerful, had announced the cancellation of the sit-at-home order since last Monday, unless on the day the leader Nnamdi Kanu is appearing in court, adding that fear and confusion may have contributed to residents staying indoors. You're still listening to the news from around the world on T Solid Radio. Still to come is the foreign and sport news. Do remember to download our app T Solid on Play Store or log on to www.tsolid.tv. You can as well follow us on our various social media platforms on our T Solid Radio TV. And moving on to the foreign scene, the Taliban has today warned that there would be consequences if the United States and its allies extend their presence in Afghanistan beyond next week as chaos continues to overwhelm Kabul airport. The hardline Islamist takeover of the country last weekend shocked the Western nation, coming just 2 weeks before an August 31st deadline for all troops to fully withdraw from the country. To manage the chaotic airlifting of foreigners and Afghans, many of whom fear reprisals of working with the Western nation, thousands of soldiers have poured back into Afghanistan, with pressure growing on Washington to extend the deadline. But the Taliban, who have so far sought to strike a more moderate zone, showed no willingness to compromise on the United States pullout. However, two Taliban sources meanwhile told reporters that the group would not announce the makeup of its government or cabinet until the late United States soldier has left the country. Ugandan's education minister has ordered the country's teachers to get vaccinated against COVID 19 or risk being barred from classroom when schools reopen. Janet Museveni, who is also the country's first lady, warned that any teacher who goes to work with a fake certificate as proof of vaccination risks losing their job. She said the inoculation of teachers would help protect pupils from the virus, adding that vaccination centers would be set up in schools and universities when they reopen. Mrs. Museveni has been under pressure in recent weeks to reopen schools, which were closed on June 6 to contain a second wave of COVID 19 infections. The Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, ZCTU, has sued several companies for ordering employees to receive COVID 19 vaccines or risk the sack. In an urgent court filing cited by privately owned Zimleaf website, ZECTU said the actions of the companies violated workers' constitutional rights. ZECTU argues in the court application that there is no law in Zimbabwe making vaccination compulsory. Public Service Minister Paul Mavima and Attorney General Prince Makachaya are also enjoined in the case. The Zimbabwe government, which has ordered all civil servants, to get vaccinated, is targeting to inoculate at least 10 million of its approximately 50 million citizens by the end of this year. Demonstrators have gathered outside the Saudi embassy in Addis Ababa to condemn alleged human rights abuses against Ethiopians living in Saudi Arabia, according to reports. Protesters have called on the Saudi government to stop cruel acts against Ethiopians, including arbitrary arrest, detention, unfair trials, and torture. However, hundreds of thousands of undocumented Ethiopian migrants have been repatriated from Saudi Arabia and other countries in the Middle East in recent years. Devastating floods in the southern United States of Tennessee have left at least 21 people dead and dozens missing, local officials said on Sunday in what's the warned as a preliminary toll. Tennessee was hit on Saturday by what meteorologists call historic storms and flooding, dumping 15 inches or more of rain. Rural roads, state highways, and bridges were washed out, and widespread power outages affected thousands of people. 20 people died in the town of Waverly in Humphrey County, Police Chief Grant Gillespie said in a news conference covered by newsmen. However, search and rescue operations were continuing on Sunday, with workers going from home to home to search for victims or those needing assistance. And moving on to the ever exciting water sports, Bayern Munich club has announced today that the German international Joshua Kimmich has signed an extension to stay until 2025. Kimmich, a versatile player at ease in both defense and midfield, was under contract with the German champions until 2023. The Bavarian Giants were intent on keeping Kimmich, who has become one of Europe's best midfielders since he signed from Bundesliga's rivals RB Leipzig in 2015. In all, Kimmich has ranked up 264 appearances with Bayern, 30 goals, and won 6 German titles, 3 German Cups, and the Championship League with the club. Kimmich played the full 90 minutes on Sunday as Bayern Munich battered their way to a 3-2 win against FC Cologne, their first home win of the new Bundesliga campaign. Alexander Zverev backed up his Olympic triumph with the fifth ATP Masters 1000 title as he crushed Andrei Rublev 6-2, 6-3 in Cincinnati on Sunday. The German needed less than an hour against his rival to lift the trophy and put himself in a solid position with the United States Open starting a week from Monday. Women world number one Ali Gbati was similarly impressive in winning her fifth title of the season at the combined ATP and WTA event, cruising past sweet wildcard Jiuqi Cheman 6-3, 6-1. The Australia, who will keep a firm grip on the number one ranking as the final Grand Slam of the year approaches, took control midway through the opening set and was never truly threatened. With that, we've come to the end of the news, a recap of the major headlines. MPA appeals to Marin police, others to hand attacks on Baji's illegal checkpoints. And on the foreign scene, Taliban warn of consequences if United States extends evacuation. And Ethiopians protects migrants abuse in Saudi Arabia. And on the world of sports, Joshua Kimmich extends buying contracts till 2025. Ensure to go by all precautionary measures to stay safe from COVID 19, as recommended by the World Health Organization and the Nigerian Center for Disease Control. And do remember to download our app T-Solid on Play Store or log on to www.tsolid.tv. You can as well follow us on our various social media platforms and at T-Solid Radio TV. The news was compiled and edited by Akachi Chijuke. I am Joy Akin Olamigoke. Good afternoon and many thanks for listening.